I guess I'm live. Am I live? I'm live. Okay, here we go. Welcome. I hope you guys are having a wonderful day. It's a beautiful day. It's a wonderfully beautiful day. So I hope that we can all have a good discussion today. The discussion, um, gosh, I got to give you guys some time to get in here. It takes a little minute. It takes a little minute. Somebody join. Hey, Sal. Oh my goodness. I gotta go ahead and get started because Sal just entered the room. All right, let me go ahead and get started. You guys, my name is Reese Roberts. This is Entertain the Thought, and I'm here to discuss some pretty open topics today. The discussion is going to be about institutionalization and how society is actually being controlled by the activities of our institutions and organizations. We have some different types of institutions and organizations that I feel should be highlighted in this discussion. Thank you, Sal. Um, I think we should really highlight a couple different types of institutions because they come in different forms and they both, well, all of the different types, they act in different ways in society to pretty much add up to our concoction of control. And one thing I know for a fact that is sort of missed and very abstract in the discussion about consciousness is how these institutions are really capable of controlling the mind of the people. Good morning to you. Thank you guys for coming. So let me go ahead and get started. So the first type of institution that I want us to be mindful of are business organizations. Now, we all know that business organizations function in different ways, and the main thing that we should note about them is how they function on the market and also how they function in the media. Business functionality and the people is very intricate. It's a very abstract concept, but it's systematic in nature, and this is something that I love to talk about is systems. You guys, we have to really start noticing patterns in our society because essentially this is what the matrix is made of. Any computer is, including your body, the universe, any computer, which is what we're living in, a computer simulation, it's all controlled by patterns in programming. It's, patterned language. And so once you figure out the patterned language of the system in which you're making reference to, then you should know how to operate within that system without being caught up or overcome by the system. Okay, so let's dig into business organizations. And then we're going to talk about, I might want to write this down before I forget it, you guys. Business organizations, and then we're going to talk about nonprofit, because in my reference, I'm going to say business is for profit. Um, Okay, and so then the next one we're going to talk about is nonprofit organizations. And then we're going to talk about how they function, okay, in society based on their characteristics and how people perceive them. So, for profit businesses, this is something where, and think about it practically. When you go to a store, okay, this is a for profit business. This is you going into a place where you're paying money and you're expecting to receive a certain product or a certain service for the money that you have given. You expect, this is a natural expectation for that product to be delivering something that's for your good, that's for your convenience, that's for saving time, it's for making life a bit easier, making your time or saving you time in some kind of way. This is what business is for profit businesses. Okay, now on the market, the way that looks is the business has to create some kind of value for itself. And then it goes out onto the market and says, this is my value to you. I'm going to serve you in this way, and you're going to pay me for it. Now, this could be intellectual property. This could be actual resources, like natural resources. If you go to a store and buy a table that was built by wood, you're exchanging your money for natural resources there. It could be a service where you're paying for human resources. If you have someone to come and clean your house, that's called a human resource. Okay, so these things operate in different ways. So you go and you expect to get this type of return for whatever it is that you've paid for. Now, what happens when businesses that are for profit are on the market and they're selling to you something which they say is for your service? It's for your good. It is for your betterment in some kind of way. But then, in light of recent events in history and the evolution of society, we've come to understand that there are plenty of businesses on the market who are not actually delivering on the promises of bettering society or bettering the lives of people. Instead, what it's aimed at is the detriment of the people. For example, you have food companies that will tell you they're delivering to you a healthy product, something that will not kill you if you consume it. However, we know for a fact that many of the things we consume by these businesses, these companies that are for profit, giving us especially food products that are not safe for our bodies, and we're still paying for this. Do you understand? And so when we have we have the media, for example, which is a tool that's used to market these businesses to you. That's why I kind of wanted to talk about the functionality of certain things about society, especially the media, because the media they may or may not know that these products are not good for us, but yet the media is used to promote the marketing of these items that we're paying for, that we expect these things to be nutritious to our lives in one way or the other, but then we could turn around and find out that we're dying. Okay, remember the topic is about organizational control. Okay, now I want you to think about what it means to control a person, because when you take that one company that's delivering to you food that is killing you, and then you multiply that by hundreds of businesses on the market that are doing the exact same thing, this is a form of control. Especially when you think about the fact that certain companies are allowed to exist in only certain neighborhoods, whereas other companies that have food that is more nutritious for the body, they're allowed to offer their services in more affluent neighborhoods. Think about how controlling that may be. And I want you to understand there's nothing you can do about that, because it's up to the business where they want to establish themselves. It's up to the business what product they want to offer. It's up to the business how much truth they want to tell about their product. It's a form of mental control, because you're not being given the full truth until you are maybe, for example, experiencing side effects. You understand? You have side effects, and then someone comes out and says, hey, Monsanto's GMO corn is killing everyone. And now we're starting to understand, in the light of the truth, that this product is for our detriment and not for our growth. And so for this long period of time where Monsanto has been able to execute their, malicious plan to alter the genetics of our natural food, why? Because they understand that the functionality of food is to deliver information to your body on a cellular level, where your cells are able to communicate and pass information back and forth between one another. Did you take biology? In the ninth grade, I was in ninth grade when I took biology, and it basically gives you the understanding that cells are intelligent. They communicate based on what is being fed to them. And so these big companies, they know these things. I'm pretty sure they have enough research to go into the chemicals and the products and all of the mixtures of compounds that they publish on the market or that they present on the market. So we have to just at least give ourselves the benefit of the doubt to assume that they know. But yet they intentionally market to us a product that is clearly for their profit but for our death when we consume it. And so this is an issue. Organizational control. A business of any type is an organization, whether it's for profit or nonprofit. So let me move to the nonprofit sector. Nonprofit organizations have a very special form of control over the mind of people, because we all assume that nonprofit organizations are benevolent. We all assume that they are giving to the community. We all assume that they are doing something to uplift humanity and all these other things. They have all these humanitarianistic causes. However, some of them are not necessarily for the best interest. Now, I want you to think about some of these documentaries being published about things like the American Cancer Research Institute or the Susan G. Komen Breast Cancer Research Institution, where these people are living fabulous, brilliant lives off the money of donors who are giving towards the cause of researching for a cure. Now, what happens, okay? What happens when we have these types of institutions that are not necessarily giving to the cause that they should be giving to? This is a form of control, you guys, because when society is under the impression that, let's just say, research is being done, research is happening at some point, some cure is going to come out of nowhere. We're going to keep shoveling our money towards this cause until a solution is found, until a cure is found. We're going to not look into as the donor, I'm not going to look into how I can holistically cure my condition or holistically research holistic solutions to the problem, but I'm going to shovel money at these scientists to research for the cure. Now, you think about, okay, the CEOs, the people who are executive board members, people who sit on those boards, they're living fabulous lifestyles. Now, if they were about the mission and they were supposed to be the leaders of the organization and they are about the mission of the organization, why are they spending more time collecting money without necessarily being focused on the research or being transparent about the research? There's a lot of information that's out there for you to, especially documentaries on Netflix. Now, I don't know about anybody else, but I respect when information is published in the form of a documentary because the information is irrefutable in a lot of situations. So the functionality of these things, the nonprofit organizations are there for the simple illusion that something benevolent is happening. And then you have this special relationship between the nonprofit organizations and the for-profit organizations, which also have another special relationship involved in that, which is political involvement, the political system, which allows these two sectors to sort of go hand in hand with one another in how they control society. There are so many implications that run. I don't want to get too deep into those because, like I said, we're talking about how the control is related to each other, institutions, and the general control of society. So we already understand that our market is being controlled, and also the transparency that goes along with the market is being controlled because it's for profit. The business can't tell you that they're poisoning you, because if they tell you that, plain as day, even though you can turn over the back of the package and look at the nutrition facts, and you can see that there's poison in your food with your own two eyes. If you just had enough of curiosity to go and look up the compounds that are in your food, look it up. See how those chemicals react in the human body. See what happens when you do that over an elongated period of time. You understand, when we have these certain effects, we wonder where the cancer is coming from. The cancer is coming from the fact that you are introducing small droplets, small amounts, small doses of toxins into your body at over long periods of time. So you're essentially just creating your own scientific project out of your own body. So I'm gonna stay on track, y'all. Don't let me get off track because this is important. In my description, what I want to focus on after we've established that is ownership in our communities and over our organizations. Think about what I just said. Think about what I just said, that we have institutions right now, businesses and organizations that are started by private groups with private interests, private entities. These are people that just start businesses out of nowhere. We are entrepreneurs. We can start our own businesses. We can start our own organizations. But what happens when ownership is the word of the day? We begin to start our own organizations that are set up to combat the for-profit industries that are polluting the market with products that are for the detriment of people. What happens if we were to say, you know what? I don't need a federal Food and Drug Administration. That is a private organization that is owned by private people, and they have their own private interests. They are not for the public interest. They're for private interest. So I'm going to create my own private organization that is for the administration of my own people's food and drugs. How about I have a federal organization or my own organization, whether it be considered federal or not? It's a private organization, which is the most overarching importance or important thing, is that my organization has to be, I want to say my organization, but in the context of profit and nonprofit. Okay. If we start our own organization where it is either for profit or nonprofit, it is private either way. And it comes with its own set of private mission, private goals, private value, private systems, private communication. Do you understand? Private structure, private everything, private technology. Please understand what I'm saying. Organizational control. So if we don't want to be controlled by the organizations that are controlling right now, what does that mean for us? We must be responsible for organizing and controlling what we own for ourselves. There's no one who can interfere with that. And I want to say to people, because there are those who will say, oh my God, we tried to do that. We've had several societies that were thriving. We had Black Wall Street, and they were bombed. But I'll say again, like I've said before and on these broadcasts, is that those people need us to survive. They cannot kill all of us. And with the introduction of technology, modernized technology, we don't have to worry about that. Black Wall Street did not have the technological capability to communicate unless they were in close quarters with each other. The community had to thrive by coming together physically because they did not have a non-physical or wireless type of connection to bring this organization together. They were organized physically because they had to be. You see, when we live in a cloud like the wireless system that exists now, we don't have to congregate physically. We can congregate online where everything we do is remote, but still organized. We have to understand that this is not something that we have to ask permission to do. We don't have to ask permission from anyone for us to communicate with each other. This is what we do on social media every single day. And the reason why social media is being more and more censored as time goes on is because you cannot control people who you can't see or touch or feel sometimes. You understand? If I am organizing my people and no one can see it happening, who's going to say bomb those people? What are you going to do? Bomb all the computers? What are you going to do? Shut down all the computers so that we can't talk anymore? That's not feasible. It doesn't even make any logical sense. And so this is what we have to understand is first of all, we don't have to reinvent the wheel of how to take control of our social environment or how to control our social environment. What we need to do is take control of our minds and figure out where we are. Like I said, we're under systematic, organized control. And so because we're very intelligent people, we should be able to figure out those patterns. We should be able to see, oh, this is not violence or dominance that is controlling my social environment. The police only kill a few people all the time. They're not killing everybody. It's not just a bloodbath in the streets. So we should know that it's not just violence that is the means of control. It's a part of it. But there's also other elements to the control that we have the power to fight against. We may not be able to combat a physical enemy, but we can most definitely combat a mental enemy where these people are not just winning a physical battle. But we have to understand that there is a spiritual battle here that is not necessarily being won. because the spiritual battle is us enlightening ourselves, raising up our vibrations, and getting to a place where we don't necessarily have to accept, mental domination if we can figure it out. There are so many of us that just don't know how to tap into that spiritual place of understanding where you can understand your enemy and you can understand how to move around your enemy, not necessarily just fall in line to what they're doing. That's why you have so many people out here quitting their jobs. They understand who their enemy is. They understand that the longer I work in this system of my enemy, then I will be supporting my enemy. I'll be giving my enemy resources that they would not be able to carry out their mission. Oh, excuse me. If they were without the human resources or the natural resources that they have been using so far to execute their mission, to dominate and control around the globe. This is not a secret. Excuse me. I say all the time, I just participated in a show with my friend Sal here that was talking about secret societies and, conspiracy theories. And it kind of bothers me that we still use the term conspiracy theory, because all the theories have, now that we're in the age of information, all the theories have checked out. And so, we have to start thinking about the fact that we're calling these conspiracies and start recognizing that these conspiracies are not just people sitting around conspiring. These people are executing the conspiracy, and that should change the category, okay? From a molehill to a mountain. It's a problem. It's not a conspiracy when you recognize that you have one company that's responsible for changing the whole ecosystem. A company now. Did you hear what I said? A company, a business that is for profit, that is getting money because people are consuming its products and paying for it. They have completely altered the natural ecosystem. Don't y'all know what Save the Bees is? These people have almost taken out the one thing that helps the earth to replenish its foliage that we eat, that we use for nutrients and nurturing to our bodies. This is an issue. It's a for-profit institution that's doing that. And then you think about other institutions like educational institutions, political institutions. They come in all kinds of categories. Healthcare institutions, historical institutions, economic institutions, technological institutions. You understand? The implications go deep. But yet we have knowledge and we have human resources that are embedded in these systems throughout our society. But the thing is that we're organized under the wrong system. Our institutional involvement in all of these organizations, our institutionalization comes from our participation in private organizations that don't belong to us. The private organizations belong to the private group or the private interest groups that are currently dominating society. That's a problem, you guys. Do we not conceptualize our enemy? Do we not, take a deeper look at our enemy to see how they're doing this? I'm very curious. I always want to know, how are you doing that? How? Are you dominating people with their participation? Wow, how are you doing that? A system of lies, a system of propaganda. You can call that a conspiracy theory if you're completely ignorant. Completely ignorant. Where you just want to ignore every piece of information that is a blazing indicator of the truth. The truth that we are fundamentally funding our own death. Slow death too. Not a quick, fast death, shoot me in the head type of death. We're personally funding the type of death that comes slow, where you have to suffer through the pain of it, where you have to become sick. You have to, basically have your body dismembered. How many people have had limbs cut off of their body because of the products they consume that have given them diabetes? We don't see problems with this. This is being given to you by someone. This is a company that's selling that to you, and you're paying for it. This is a company that controls. I used to work for the Internal Revenue Service. The Internal Revenue Service is currently funding funding world domination, private Federal Reserve Bank. This is the current enemy. Okay? And I'm working for them. I'm sitting behind the desk. I'm on the phone. Thank you for calling the Internal Revenue Service. My name is Cherise Muse. My ID number is 100-130-6960. How may I help you? This me. Nice about it. Now, there was a time when I was cussing people out over the phone and hanging up on people, but that was just because I was tired. I was tired. But I'm telling you, this is what we have to conceptualize. I can't complain about being under the control of this particular organization, being the Internal Revenue Service. Do y'all know that if me being an IRS employee didn't get me not one employee discount on my taxes? Did you know that if I was not in full compliance, that I would be reprimanded with a system that is absolutely illegal? There is no place in the law, and I'm going to tell you this, any IRS employee will tell you this. There is no place in the law that says that we have to participate in the Internal Revenue Service's policies and procedures. Why? Because we do not all participate in commercial commerce. We all don't participate in business exchanges, debits and credits. That's the only thing the IRS is supposed to be, that's the only thing they should have a jurisdiction over, is their involvement in commerce. Not everybody's involvement in commerce. See, there's a little bit of truth in the lie. And that's what always hangs us up. I used to work for them for almost a full decade. And so you could call it a conspiracy theory if you want. There are publications out there right now with people who are even more tenured than my small 8 years that I did there. And they'll tell you 20 years of experience. One lady published a video that said, I went through all of this code. I've been here for 30 years. I ain't seen not one thing yet that says we have to participate in this Internal Revenue Service system. But this is organizational control, where these companies are organizing themselves, giving themselves a mission, giving themselves a brand, giving themselves a story that they publicize, and they will say, this is what we're here for. We're here to serve you. We're here to give you products that make your life easy. Yeah, you can go ahead and microwave your dinner. You can go ahead and cut down all the time of cooking dinner. But they don't tell you that when you microwave your dinner in 10 seconds, or when you microwave your dinner in 1 minute, versus taking the 30 minutes or 40 minutes to an hour that it takes to cook your dinner the natural way, that you're zapping yourself with a small dose of radiation. And as you consume hot food out of a microwave, you're also consuming active radiation. They don't tell you that little piece, because they want to control your mind to think that that's not a thing. It's not a thing. They don't even want you to know that. And so it becomes difficult to separate what is controlling you, what is your decision, and what's not. If you knew that your microwave was poisoning you, would you actually opt for the option to cook your food on a stove instead of putting it in a microwave? This is a product that you purchased with your money, and it's killing you. I bet you the people who invented the microwave don't use the microwave. Do you understand? It's toxic. And this is what we have to know about our environment, is that we are being sold a toxic environment. And then we participate in it, readily, because we don't understand that the environment is toxic. We don't understand that we're the ones that's funding the toxicity in that environment. And so this is what I feel really needs to be addressed in our community, and how we are looking at these things, because we have every ability, every knowledge, every piece of knowledge that we need. We have every resource that we need to create our own businesses and organizations that have missions, that have value, that are privatized, and that are mobile, mobilized and organized. We have the resources to do that. But what's going to happen is that we'll miss the opportunity to control our own social environment if we're not in a place for us to seize the opportunity to own it. We create an organization, it becomes successful, and then we sell it, instead of doing the work to make it even more successful, like the person who bought it from us would be doing. We have to get out of this mind frame. We have to get out of this mindset that our organizational structure or that our organizational systems are for sale. They are private interests, and they should remain that way, because that's the only way we'll be able to control, like I said, our own social capacity, our own social standards, and our own social control. We'll only be able to do that if we have ownership of our own businesses and organizations that have appropriate missions, that have appropriate value on this market, that have appropriate transparency. Do you understand? There comes a time where we have to know that we have control. As long as we have ownership. Because this is a system, like I said before, I hate to give Steve Harvey credit because this was a very ignorant interview he did, but he did make a valid point when he said this is a money game. And so, no, I don't think you have to lose your integrity to play the money game, but I do think that you need to gain your ownership. Retain your integrity, retain the integrity, but also retain the ownership. So that way you can retain your integrity. There's no reason to sell out, so to speak, where you have created. Shahid, please be quiet. There's no reason for us to have our societies controlled by entities that are not in our best interest. We have our own private interest. We have our own private missions, and we won't be able to change our trajectory in this social structure or in the future of our evolutionary path. We won't be able to change that trajectory unless we're able to say, I own my organization. I own my business. And this is how I want to control my input and my output, so that the best of the people who I serve are actually served with integrity, that I don't have to lie to them to get them to patronize me, that I don't have to cover up the truth to get them to patronize me and what I do, that I don't have to kill people, that I don't have to, find toxic ways to create a profit, but yet I can remain true to what my mission is, to what my value is to people. And in order to create value to people, you must have righteousness and integrity, some wisdom. You must have some value. And so this is what I want my people to know. We have integrity. We have value. We have morality. We have everything that's necessary for us to create our own organizations and then create our own organizational control. And when you have organizational control, you also have social control. These things happen in a systematic line of procession. It doesn't have to be something that is abstract or foreign. We just have to get the concept of ownership and what ownership does. There are people who own this country. We can own our own country if we own our own businesses and organizations. This entire country is a business. It is for profit, and it uses natural and human resources to generate a profit. That is what it does. That's how it operates. It fights wars for it. It kills people for it. It poisons people for it. It experiments on people for it. You understand? It exploits people for it. It will extort you for it. All kinds of things. But these are the type of environments that we support because we don't understand the systematic nature and control of these businesses and organizations. They cannot control what they don't own. And this is what we have to understand. As a nation of people, we can only control what we own. And if we keep on selling things that we've created, like our intellectual property, our ideas, our inventions, our technologies, we go and you create some kind of technological invention, you go sell it to Google, you go sell it to Apple, you go sell it to such and such, such and such. There's only one brother, or maybe a couple that I'm not aware of, but there's one that I know that pops up in my front of my mind, where he created this men's shaving system, a skincare system, and it's absolutely perfect because I don't think that he sold it. I think he kept it for himself, and he's like, I'm creating my own personal empire with this, just like your Gillette, just like your Suave, and everybody else who makes razor and skincare products. You understand? He said, I'm going to retain ownership because I want to retain control. This is how we must understand the relationship between institutional organizations and control. Ownership of these things. If you don't want to be controlled, stop selling out. Stop selling your soul. Stop selling your product. Stop selling your information. Stop selling your health. Okay? And stop purchasing toxic things that are not bringing you any type of healthy side effects, any type of healthy nutrition for your body. These things, when they kill you, they slowly take away your wealth. When your brain is being toxic, your brain is being poisoned. For example, you don't have the use of the faculties of your brain like you would if you were not poisoning it, and you're paying to poison your brain. You lose wealth when that happens. You understand? When your brain doesn't function appropriately, think about what that does in the long run. Think about you underperforming. Think about you not reaching your potential. That's money you lost when you lose your brain power because you're poisoning yourself. Myself included. I should be saying that about myself too, because I damn sure ate me some macaroni and cheese this weekend, and the beans had turkey meat in it. Oh, that was just all the way wrong. Whew, but it was good. I gotta stop. But these are the things, y'all listen to me now. Even if you don't stop consuming poisonous material into your body, at least know enough to know that your ownership, your right to ownership of everything, including your health, is the only thing that you will be able to control. You'll only have the right to control that which you accept your right to own. You have the right to ownership. If you don't own up your education, if you don't own up your financial success, if you don't own up your physical health, if you don't own up to it, own up to your your economic situation, own up to the things, the goals that you are trying to reach in your life. Because if you're not reaching them, or if something's not happening according to your plans, who's in control of that? You, because you own it. You control what you own, and you own what you control. And in this society, we don't own much. And that's why we don't control enough. We don't control in the right areas. What are we controlling right now? The things that we own. Okay, we own a bunch of hair studios, a lot of people making t-shirts, a lot of us doing cosmetic things. A lot of us are pursuing corporate careers. None of that is ownership of anything that our people really need. If I could do like a mass assessment, if I do a survey, will y'all participate in it? I really need a survey to assess. I want to assess the bandwidth of our so-called Black people. I want to assess the bandwidth of us, because I would like to know how many businesses and organizations could we create to compete with the ones that are currently controlling our society. And if we were to create our own missions to basically counteract the toxic missions that are out there, like the people who, like Monsanto, is there any way that we could create an organization that competes or counteracts what Monsanto does in our environment? I know that there are probably a few organizations out there that are fighting against Monsanto, but how many of them are Black owned? How many so-called Black people own those type of research labs and centers where they might be looking at the genetic effects of genetically modified organisms, and looking at how we can reverse the effects of our brains and our bodies not being fed proper information or artificial information? Because like I said at the beginning of this, when you eat, that food comes to nurture your brain and your body. This on a cellular level. It talks to your body. It teaches your body what to do. It teaches the cells where to go, how to communicate, what to carry, what to waste. This is information coming from the food. And so what if we had a lab or some kind of research people out there somewhere that would say, okay, let us set up an organization where we want to study and sort of counteract what is being done by this company, Monsanto. Maybe if we figure out how Monsanto has been poisoning the people and the effects of it, we can create an antidote. We can create a more holistic approach to ridding the body of these genetically modified effects. Because I don't know if you know this, but when we all consume genetically modified food, it genetically modifies our body. Like I said, the nutrients in your food, or the lack thereof, it communicates with your body. It communicates with your genes. And I'm going to tell you why it rewrites over your genetic makeup. Because when your body gets introduced a foreign object, what it wants to do is understand that object. Your body is intelligent. And so this is the reason why you get fevers. Because when a foreign object or a foreign compound, a foreign virus or something is introduced to the body, it has to identify, is this a benevolent nutritional thing where I can consume it, use it, store it as energy, do something with it? Or is this toxic? Is it killing my cells? Is it causing the cells to overproduce? What is it doing? I'm going to begin attacking this compound that has been introduced because I don't like it. Okay, and the body, as it does that, it starts to write this information down in your genetic code because it has to remember this for future use. That's the reason why your body is able to build up its immune system. Lord have mercy. It's able to build up the immune system because as you go through your life and you introduce toxins and different things to your body, as a baby, you put things in your mouth, your body is writing this down. Okay, I could use that. That was good. I can check that off my list as a nutrient. Or, oh, nope, that didn't like that. That was a virus that attacked me. That sent my senses haywire. I don't like that one. I'm going to write that down in the genetic code. This is how we are operating on a physiological level. And we have to understand that these companies are selling us poison that's not just going to affect us right now. This is going to affect us in years to come. This is going to affect how we operate. It's going to affect how we actually use our senses, our abilities in the future. Now, we know that our senses and our abilities have been sort of dumbed down so far, but think about how low it'll be. Think about how low our vibrations would be if we're continuing down this path of degradation. We're already low enough. We must return back to the type of nutritional information, nutritional data that goes into our consumption of food. And so that's just one example, but I could go on for days about how different organizations are contributing to social control. Let's not even get into political organizations. Those are supposed to be federal, and that's another form of nonprofit. Even though the federal government is absolutely for profit, they'll tell you that, oh no, this is a nonprofit. I wonder how many federal government agencies have a 501c3 status where they're not profitable. And if that can be proven, because it's clear that they are definitely a for-profit corporation and that they are governed by private interest groups who have nothing to do with public interest. Absolutely nothing. They're concerned about profit margins. And if those profit margins don't meet up to their standards or to what it takes for them to generate their sustainability, for them to remain sustainable in whatever their lives are, living lavishly, having these empires, these castles, these compounds of large houses and ridiculous amenities, ridiculous accessories to life, we basically must maintain that lifestyle for them, which is the reason why they use organizational and business control over society to make sure that they're in a constant position of being a provider of what we need. If those private interest groups always have the food that we need to eat, they'll always be in control of the food. If they are always the only ones who has the means to clean the water, they are the only ones who have the means to make sure that the air is not being polluted. This is by way of their organizational control, that they have the means to do these things, that they even have the ability to say, oh, I own this. It's because they created the ownership. We can do the same thing. Ownership is created. You create something. You create a thought, an intellectual product, an invention. That's a creation. You control it when you own it. I'm going to keep saying that because it's very important. You control it when you own it. Only when you own it. We can't get away from that. We cannot get away from that. That's the reason why these people are controlling everything. Political organizations are private. Education systems, privately owned. They say it's federal government. That's private. Federal agencies are private. The Food and Drug Administration, the Center for Disease Control, private. Internal Revenue Service, private. Congress, all those people are under the illusion of being there for public interest. They're there for their salaries, which a lot of them are guaranteed to get as long as they show up to work. It doesn't even matter if they do a good job or not. It doesn't even matter if they are catering to the constituents that they are there to serve. It doesn't even matter. All they got to do is just show up. They're just there for the show. Because it's clear that what society wants is not being honored by the people in those positions. The only thing that they're honoring is the private interest. Lobbyists. Do you know what a private interest group is? It's a lobby. A lobbyist. A person who goes to a company and says, hey, listen, I need to sell this milk. These people don't want to eat it, but I need for you to lie to them and tell them that it's healthy, that it has calcium in it, and that it's not cow pus that has been pasteurized into something that's stomachable. Come on now. I need you to lie. I'm going to give you this $2 million. It's a whole group of us. All of us own milk factories. We done raised up $7 million. And we need y'all to vote so that we can go ahead and get this passed off. I need the Food and Drug Administration to say that milk is healthy for the body. The Food and Drug Administration says, well, them $7 million worth of bonuses in our pockets is definitely going to make Christmas nice this year. Let me go ahead and do that. Let me get that $7 million up off you, bruh. Because what I'm about to do is stamp off whatever needs to be stamped off on it, says and say that this scientist did this study at this closed time, that nobody was there to observe this study. Nobody was there to peer review this study. Nobody was there to check out any of the components of this study to say that it was a sound scientific observation that is considered healthy for consumed milk. These people go in private interest. They're able to sell all of us dairy products. It's really just pus. It comes out of a cow. Gross. Are they going to tell you that? No. Because if they tell you that it's pus, you might not buy it. You might not want to put it in your mouth. And that's not good for business. Do you understand? We need to have our own organizations for our own interests, where we're going to be transparent and tell people this is pus. I mean, if you like the pus, I'll keep making it and you can have it. But it's pus. This is how we made this. It might be good to your tongue, but it's probably going to kill you after so long. It's probably going to create all kind of mucus in your body that you can't control, and that's making you sick. You understand? We have to get these things into conceptual understanding. We have to get into conceptual perception, where we understand how we are being controlled. This lady said, and I'm going to close with this. This one lady said, sometimes we're always looking for a conspiracy in everything. Because of that, we see conspiracies in everything. And to that, I would say that, common sense tells you to observe your environment. And so you don't necessarily have to be looking just to be observing. In the present moment, there are things that are all around you that are observable. And if you're smart, you will observe and you will learn from those things that you are observing. If I look and I see that there's a pattern in behavior, there's a pattern in outcomes, there's a trail to the money, I'm not going to ignore that I just observed. You understand, your observations are very important to your scientific processes, to the protection of you and your mind and your physical body. If you don't observe danger, if you don't observe a threat, if you don't observe, benevolence, or observe health, if you don't observe any damn thing, you're going to be in trouble. The mothership can't save you. If you're not going to observe your environment and thrive off of that which you've learned from your environment, everything around you is there for your lessons learned, to teach you, provide you with some kind of applicable wisdom based on what you've observed from your environment. If you're not doing that, then you're not considered alive. You're not considered a living organism if you're not absorbing the things from your environment for the purpose of your growth. That's what an organic piece of material actually does. That's what is considered life. When things duplicate and replicate, you can only duplicate and replicate, meaning put your knowledge to use if you're absorbing it in some kind of way. Exactly. Ignorance is death. That's right. And if you're going to continuously ignore, okay, at the base, at the root of that word ignorance is ignore. If you ignore your observations when they are there to teach you, everything in your environment is there to teach you. You just have to be wise enough to go into your mental processes to start picking these observations apart and saying, okay, I get it. There's a pattern there. And I'm going to honor that pattern because in most situations, patterns don't lie. The numeric universe is amazing. You know, we live in a binary universe, which is just reduced down to ones and zeros, where you have choices. You have the choice not to choose. You have the choice not to choose. But at the end of the day, what you must do is pick a side. You're going to be binary and dual no matter what you want for yourself. You were created as a binary dual being in a binary dual universe where duality is a part of your universal composition. There's nothing you can do about that. You must say yes or no. You must recognize up and down. You must recognize in and out. You must recognize hot and cold. You understand? One extreme to the next. Everything we have is on a sliding scale of relativity. A sliding scale of relativity is where we are on this planet. And so I don't want to get too far off because I'm pretty much done, y'all. I'm about to wrap up. And so you guys can come back and, re-see it again so that you can see what I was talking about, because I'm talking about social control and our institutionalization and how our businesses are basically controlling the environment that we're in. And we're not being mindful enough to observe our environment to see that this is where our live and real threat is coming from. And we're reducing it down to the topic or the theory of conspiracy theory, when in truth and reality, our environment is providing patterns for us to observe. And like I said, these businesses are operating in very specific ways that we can observe the patternistic behavior of what's happening and how we are able to duplicate that system of control and turning it for our own purposes and our own mission. Like I said, the economic system, it was created for social control. And so we have to put those pieces together to see how that relates to business and society. We have direct control over what businesses we patronize, what businesses we work for. And hear me when I say this, all jobs are not good jobs just because they come with a check. What are you willing to do for a paycheck? If somebody told you, I will pay you $1 million if you hold this gun in your hand and shoot down everybody that comes into this door, and you have no idea why people are coming into that door, you have no idea who you're going to be shooting and for what purpose, will you do that? Will you do that? And this is where we have to start reconceptualizing. How are we placing value on the things that we're giving our energy to, the things that we're allowing to control our social structures, our mental capacity, our mental faculties? We must get to a place where these patterns are being honored. These patterns are being recognized. These patterns are being put into some kind of applicable system for ourselves. Okay? I've been on here for almost an hour, so I'm going to go ahead and sign off. You guys, my name is Reese Roberts. Please go back to the beginning of this if you missed it and listen to it from the beginning. I hope that it gave you a bit of understanding. I hope that it, shed some light on some things and gave you a personal mission to change how you think about the ownership of things in your life, about how you purchase things, about how you interact with businesses and organizations, what you believe about these businesses and organizations. When they come out with media campaigns, I need you to know that a media campaign is for the purpose of social control, because what they do is sit in an office. I do this with my brand, okay? So I know that major companies do it. I sit back and think, how can I get these people to listen to me? How can I get these people to believe what I'm saying? How can I get these people to patronize me? How can I get them to do that? See, the only thing difference between me and a lot of major corporations and organizations is that I have integrity. The story that I'm telling you is true and real. The brand and the mission that I'm presenting to you is true and real. The information that I present to you, it's according to every ounce of my knowledge and being, it is true and real. And so what you have to do as a consumer is to realize that there are some of us out here who are for the benevolent treatment of humanity. It's for the evolution of a greater, more unified, more healthy, united humanity. But then you have other businesses and organizations that are out here to tear us down. And when you patronize these businesses, when you patronize these institutions, when you trust them, when you work for them, when you send your children to them, this is when you have given up the control, given up the ownership, and subscribe to something that is more for your detriment than it is for the health or growth of you in any way. So let's be mindful of the patterns, be mindful of the sources of where things are coming from. Let's look at the ownership. Let's look at the mission of the ownership of the places that we consume from. Let's become providers of products and services that people can consume, that are not killing them. Let's become the leaders of institutionalized organizations that are not there to lie to people and to say, oh, I'm looking for a cure. I'm looking, we're researching. But really, we're just living lavish lives and we're not doing anything. Let's be the owners of the organizations that are there researching. Let's be the owners of the organizations that are looking for a cure, that are trying to help the people who have been afflicted by cancers that they cannot control. Let's be the ones who come together in our own minds and say, I'm not going to work. I'm not going to wait for government funding to get involved. I'm going to crowdfund. I'm going to find lobbyists or special interest, private interest groups that are here for the same mission that I'm here for. We're going to fund it ourselves. We're going to find investors who see the profitability of morality, and they see the profitability of uplifting people and helping people thrive and live. They see the profitability of that, not the profitability of lying to people, shooting them up with toxic things that we call medications and getting them dependent on things that they cannot control, meaning opioids, meaning prescription pills, getting them hooked on things that they cannot control. These people are already living in toxic mental environments, and then you introduce toxicity into their physical environments. What happens? This is death that we're playing with here. But we can change this. We can have our own organizations that are set up for our personal and social evolution. The social evolution is directly related to our personal revolution. You cannot personally evolve in the way of life and living and thriving if your social environment is everything but. You understand? You are an organic piece of matter inside of, an environment that you absorb. It's just like if you were to put a piece of bread down into the water. You just put bread into water. It's going to expand. It's going to absorb that water and, become it, basically. It's going to become a new something based on the environment that you just put it in. It's probably going to, melt down into some kind of mush. This is what we do. We absorb our environment and we become it. So if we are in an environment, a social environment that is set up for us to have these ignorant failures, where we are consuming toxic things, promoting toxic things, creating toxic things, not understanding that it's toxic. Do you get it? We have to change how we are interacting with this environment. We have to change the environment altogether. And the thing that's creating the environment is these corporations, these businesses. They're creating the social environment that we thrive in. All of our uses of technology, all of our ideas about what evolution is and how our company should push society forward. This is all happening by private interest groups. This is all happening by people who do not give a single damn about what we're doing or where we're headed as a melanated group of people. Of course, they want to further their own agenda for death and destruction and control and dominance. Of course, that's what our enemy wants to do. these private interest groups. But we have to know our private interests also matter, and that we also have control of our private interests. There is no bomb or no gun or no anything that can stop that. And I want you to hear me. I'm going to stop after this. We are in a mental spiritual war. We are not in a physical war. You should not fear physical death in a spiritual war unless you are going to subjugate yourself to that type of exposure. You guys on Instagram, I'm going to have to let you go. If you want to see the rest of this, please go on Facebook, and I'll publish my SoundCloud for you guys to go back and listen to the audio of the podcast. Bye, y'all.